In this video, we're going to be talking about how to evaluate an expression. So let's go ahead and open up our notes and talk about what it means to evaluate an expression. When you're evaluating something, all you're basically doing is finding the value, which means finding the answer. So evaluate means to find the answer. You can see the word value in there. Sometimes that can help you remember what that word means. So you're finding the value or the answer. In an expression, you're going to see numbers and you're going to see operations, but you're also going to see variables. And a variable is just a symbol that represents a number. And it's usually a letter. Could be just a symbol, like we have a symbol for pi that represents a number, but most of the time the variable will be a letter. And then we are going to be working with algebraic expressions. You can see the word algebra in there. You're doing a little bit of algebra. And if you asked an older brother or sister what algebra is, or you opened up their book to look at what the algebra they were studying in school looked like, you'd see a lot of letters. And that's going to be true for us too. Algebraic expressions are going to have at least one variable, and remember those are usually letters, and they'll have one operation. And remember, operations just mean like add, subtract, multiply, and divide. All right, so here's an example right here of an algebraic expression. And you can see that it has this letter here, and remember we're calling that a variable. It has an addition sign here, so that's our operation. And then sometimes there are extra like actual numbers, and we call these constants. Because no matter what our variable is, we're always going to add 2 to it. So it's a constant, or in this case, it's the number that doesn't change. All right, so let's see how we would use this. We're going to evaluate the following expressions. In number 1, it says n plus 2 if n is equal to 12. So all you're going to do is replace the variable with the value that you're given. So they're saying if n is 12, so I'm going to take the place of the n in the expression and put a 12 there, 12 plus 2, and then I'm actually going to solve the problem. What is 12 plus 2? It's 14. And that's all there you do. All right, and number 2, you might have more than one variable. Just make sure you put in the right number for the right variable. So my first variable is x. I'm going to replace that with 14. And I'm going to subtract. And then my second variable is y, and they say y is 12. So now I have this expression, 14 minus 12, and I'm going to solve that to get 2. In number 3, it says 9c if c is equal to 1/3. So it doesn't change what we do just because it's a fraction. We do need to know that there is an operation here even though it's not written down. Remember, when you have a number next to a letter, that is just another way to write multiplication. So I'm supposed to multiply 9 times c. So I'm going to rewrite this 9 times 1/3. And then of course I have to remember how to multiply fractions. So when I want to multiply fractions, ain't no problem, top times the top, bottom times the bottom. So I might want to go ahead and rewrite 9 as a fraction and make it 9 over 1, and then I can do top times the top, which is 9, bottom times the bottom, 1 times 3 is 3. So I get this, 9 over 3, and then anytime you're working with fractions, you always want to look and see if it can be simplified at the end, and this one can. These are both divisible by 3, or I can think of it as 9 divided by 3, and you can simplify that way. This becomes 3 over 1, or just 3. In number 4, you have 2d minus 5 plus d if d is equal to 3. So in this case, there are 2 variables that are both d. You're just going to use the 3 twice. All right, so I'm going to first put it here. Remember, 2d means 2 times d, so I'm going to rewrite this as 2 times 3 minus 5. That part doesn't change. Plus, and then d again is going to be 3, so 3 here. And then I want to make sure I use order of operations to find the value here. So I'm always going to start with parentheses, and there's really nothing to do inside the parentheses. Right here, these parentheses are telling me to multiply. So there are no exponents, so the next thing I would look for is multiply, divide. And so since I have multiplication here first, I'm going to do that first. 2 times 3 is 6, and minus 5 plus 3. After, if I'm looking at PEMDAS, after I do parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, and then I want to look for add, subtract. Remember, I do those in order, left to right. So I actually need to subtract first. 6 minus 5 is 1, and then add 3 to get 4. Number 5 says 4y squared if y is equal to 1/3. All right, so again, I know when I have a number next to a variable, that means multiply. And then I need to remember also what the exponent means. Well, 4, let's first rewrite it as 1/3 squared. And exponents tell me how many times to multiply the base. So the base this time is a fraction. So that's telling me I need to multiply 1/3 twice. So I'm going to go ahead and do that first because I would do exponents. Remember, I'm doing exponents before I multiply. So I'm going to write this as 1/3 times 1/3. All right, so we just had a reminder of how to multiply fractions. We do top times top and bottom times bottom. So this becomes 4. And then 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 3 is 9. My last step is to go ahead and multiply times 4. So I'm going to make this 4 over 1, and then I can multiply. 4 times 1 is 4. 1 times 9 is 9. And then I'm going to take a look to see if it can be simplified. This one cannot, so my final answer is 4/9. In problem number 6, I have 2a squared plus 3b if a is equal to 4 and b is equal to 2. So a is going to be 4, so I'm going to rewrite that as 2 times 4 squared plus 3b, that means 3 times, I'm replacing b with 2, and then I'm going to solve it. Again, order of operations, I should start with my exponent, and this 4 squared means 4 times 4. Multiply 4 2 times. I'm going to start with that. So 4 times 4 is 16. I'm going to replace that 4 squared with 16. Then after I'm done with my exponents, I look for multiplication and division. I have multiplication here. 2 times 16 is 32. I want to finish my multiplication before I move on to add, subtract. So 3 times 2, is 6. And my last step is to go ahead and add those together. So 32 plus 6 is 38. All right, so that's evaluating expressions. Remember, when you see that word evaluate, they're just asking you to find the answer. You're going to see variables, which are letters that stand for numbers. Those are the number, or that's what you're going to be replacing when you evaluate the expression. You'll also have at least one operation, sometimes multiple operations, and you could have a constant that's just a number that's already part of the expression. So to evaluate, remember all we did is we took the number that they gave us for the variable and we just put it in there for the variable, and then we solved the problem. So every time x was 14, so 14 went there, and then y was 12, so 12 went right there. And then we solve the remaining problem. All right, so that's evaluating expressions. I'll see you later.